What's the latest on Otto?
Otto went through practice today. Looked good, felt good, so probable for tomorrow. Practice was good. Our guys are in a good mood. They're really locked in, and we feel good about the position we're in. To number one, to make the conference finals is a hell of an accomplishment for any team in the league. You get down to the Final Four, and I think there's a sense of satisfaction getting this far, and then a sense of anticipation with what's next. To have home court, it's fantastic. We're excited to open up in front of our home fans tomorrow, and we're dialed in on Dallas, fully aware of how well they've played, not just in the playoffs, but really since about the new year. They've been one of the best teams in the league. So huge challenge ahead, but great challenge, great opportunity.
You guys have obviously been here before and way more than Dallas. I mean, do you feel like the experience kind of gives you guys an edge over them?
I think I can't comment on anything that they're doing or their team. I mean, they just won a Game 7 on the road against the best team in the league, so I'm sure they're feeling confident. We're feeling confident. Our guys have been in this position many times, our core guys. I think where it shows is kind of down the stretch, like against Memphis in Game 6. Our guys have guts. They're not afraid of anything, and that's where our experience helps us. So it's good to be able to lean on that, but it's also not a solution for anything. We've got to do this with this particular team. This is a different version of the Warriors than the team that made the finals 5 years in a row. So it's kind of new territory for some of our guys, but exciting for us to be here as a group.
Hey, Steve, Iguodala, it appears from the outside anyway that he's doing more than just rehabbing and cheerleading during games. What's he doing for you?
Coaching. He's like an assistant coach, only one who the players can rely on for real-time advice. He's actually guarded all these guys that we're going to face. And so as a coach, we can draw something on the board and say, hey, this is going to be our scheme. Andre can go directly to our guys and say, when I guarded Doncic, when I guarded Brunson, this is the tendency. This is what I think could help you. So that kind of hands-on advice, player to player, is really important.
Did you guys kind of ask him to do that, or he's just
no?
That's just evolved.
No, it's been part of his role all season long. He's a mentor for these guys. He feels really strongly about passing on his knowledge. He's talked about how when he got into the league, he had his own vets who mentored him, and he realized later on in his career how important he could be for his younger teammates.
Steve, your guys have made some reference to you're not as young. You guys aren't as young as it used to be, and the toll, like even a trip to Memphis for Game 7 would have taken just the flight itself. You'd always need rest, I think Clay said. I know it's a playoffs, but you've got the every other day now. Are there any accommodations you might cut practice short a little bit, or anything you're doing to try to save their legs through this long process?
Yeah, I mean, we factor that in every day. Our performance staff basically monitors every player's energy output during practice. They advise us on, what day is best if we're going to scrimmage, in relation to, when the next game is. So we've been doing that all year long, and the last few days we've sort of followed a plan that our performance team has felt was best going into Game 1.
Doncic isn't a particularly strong defensive player as far as man-on-man defense, but they're a strong unit. Do you find a way? I know you don't want to target guys per se, but is fatigue a fact? Do you try to fatigue a guy? Do you try to make him a little more active, to try to break that defensive chain with that Dallas that they have? Because it looked like they were really impressed with the last, 2 games of that series.
Yeah, that's part of the playoffs. It becomes a much bigger strategy in the playoffs than it does in the regular season. When you have time to prepare and you really know exactly who you're going against and all that, and then you have tape to watch from each game, you tend to play the pick-on game more than you would in the regular season. So that's something that they obviously do really well. It's something we've done in the first 2 rounds as well. It's probably a much bigger part of the NBA now than, say, even 10 years ago.
Steve, obviously, turnover is obviously not a new issue for this team. What is the message other than please stop doing that?
No message. I'm not even bringing them up. It's been the number one key on our board for about 72 straight games, so there's no point. So I think if I don't say anything, then we're going to take care of the ball.
Steve, you and your staff implemented a defensive system here. It's been very effective, but sometimes some of that can take time. Are you surprised at how quickly and seemingly dramatically Jason Kidd and his staff have done that in Dallas?
They've done a great job. I'm not surprised. I mean, Jason's always been a defensive-minded coach. He's been a very creative coach going back to Brooklyn and Milwaukee. He's not afraid to attack and blitz, and that's part of kind of the way he sees the game. But I think what's crucial in Dallas's growth and development is the continuity that they have on the roster. These guys know each other really well. It's such an underrated dynamic in today's league. There's so much movement. So many teams are, just adding new guys, subtracting other guys. But you look at Dallas and you look at, in particular, Finney Smith, Kleba, Luka, Brunson. I know Hardaway's hurt, but he's been there a while. Like that really matters. And so, when a new coach comes in and is able to take a group that's already been together, because I had the same situation here. I inherited a team that had great continuity. It's much easier to implement changes because the group already knows each other really well.
They jumped Steph in the last matchup with doubles. I think he didn't even attempt a shot in the fourth. How informative was that tape?
That was probably the best game to watch in terms of playoff prep, even though Draymond wasn't there. Strategically, there were some things that happened in that game that I think will repeat themselves in this series. So, we're anticipating that they'll blitz Steph and try to get the ball out of his hands, and it's all part of playoff prep.
What did you see in that fourth quarter?
Well, they were going to make sure that he wasn't going to beat him. So we had open looks. Moses came in and went 5 for 5 and made 3 or 4 plays driving to the rim. So there were openings all over the court. And that's the risk you run with blitz. On the other hand, Steph didn't get a shot the whole fourth quarter. So, I think as a staff, we have to think about that. And so what you do is you think about different ways to attack, different sets that you might run to address the blitz.
A couple questions for you, Steve. One, were you ever targeted when you played?
Pretty much every night, Marcus. Different game back then, though. The rules were different. You didn't have the spacing that you have now. Most teams only had a couple 3-point shooters. Most teams threw the ball inside. So there really was not as much space to cover, and you didn't see a lot of teams run, a bunch of high ball screens with spacing. They'd run high ball screens, but you had a lot more help, back then. So I'm glad I played then and not now.
and watching the evolution of Jordan Poole as a player, when did his ability to get to the rim start standing out to you and becoming a weapon? Did you see it behind the scenes, even when he wasn't playing that much?
Yeah, we'd see it in practice. His first couple of years, he would have great scrimmages. He'd get to the rim. It was just a matter of time for him to feel comfortable getting to the rim in games with the speed of the game, the intensity. That's different from obviously a scrimmage in practice. And it's the old adage about the game has to slow down for players. It's really the best way to describe it. I would say the middle of last season, maybe after he came back from Orlando, he was more comfortable, more confident. The game slowed down, and he was able to get to his spots.
Right, got a couple on Zoom. Mark Haynes, go ahead.
Hey Steve, being a former player yourself like Jay Kidd, do you kind of notice a different coaching style with coaches that actually played in the NBA compared to coaches that's never played?
I don't think there's a different style. I just think it's an easier communication that happens with your players because they know you've been there and you can speak from experience, and you don't even really have to. I rarely talk about my playing days, but our players know I've been in their shoes and I've felt all the pressure that they feel and all the other stuff. So I think that's helpful. Jason's really unique because he's one of the few superstar Hall of Famers who has really gone on to become a great coach. I mean, I just feel like most of the former players are sort of guys like me who were role players and grinders, and that seems to be the norm anyway. If you look at all the former players who have coached, not a lot of superstar top 25 all-time players like Jason who have gone on and done this for a long time. So he's unique.
What do you remember about facing Jason Kidd?
I didn't guard him, thankfully. I think the biggest thing I remember about Jason was just the overwhelming speed and force that he played with in transition. Even after made baskets, he'd come barreling down. You didn't really see how strong he was until you played against him. On TV, maybe you couldn't see it as much, but when the game started, you felt his force, and he was obviously a brilliant passer, just played with this wonderful pace and energy and made the game easier for his teammates. Just a brilliant player.
Did he ever target you?
No. Like I said, my coach never put me on him, so fortunately.
Christos, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Hope you're doing well. At this point of the season, how important is the home court advantage for you, and how important is to start the series against the Mavericks with 2 wins at 6?
How important is the home court advantage and to win the first 2?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we've sort of seen it all here. We've won Game 7s on the road. We lost one at home. Home court advantage is nice, but you can't get too carried away if you win the first one and even win the next one. Phoenix did that last round and they lost 4 of the next 5. So you just take it a game at a time, and it's nice starting at home. You hope to get off to a good start. It's nice not having to travel. In the end, you're probably going to have to win a game on the road. Like we've done that 25 series in a row, whatever it is, Raymond. You got to be able to win on the road in the playoffs. So home court's nice, but it doesn't guarantee anything, obviously.